Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Zach Sopak, and today we're going to be talking about 4 Lightroom tools that you should be using because it will absolutely change the way that you edit photos. So let's get into it. Now, before we jump into it, I will mention that I do have timestamps down below, so that way you can skip ahead or go back to a certain tool that I talk about. And also, if you get value out of this video, go ahead and add some value right back to it by hitting that like button, and also consider subscribing to this channel. So let's hop into Adobe Lightroom, talk about these tools. That actually kind of sounds like talking about like a bunch of jerks. Like, yo, let's talk about these tools. So here we are in Adobe Lightroom. I've got my photos here already edited with one of my presets. If you're interested, link down below in the video description. And we're going to be talking about the very first tool that you definitely need to be using, which is the spot removal tool. Now, if you're familiar with Photoshop, the spot removal tool is similar to a clone stamp tool and the spot healing brush inside of that program. And instead of me trying to explain what it does, I'm just going to show you how it works. So I'm going to zoom in on my face here, and now we are up close and personal. What I'm going to do is use the spot removal tool to remove the freckles on my nose. So when you have your photo, you just go up here to this top tool, circle with the arrow, and that is the spot removal tool. And I'm going to choose heal. And so you can actually change the size of the brush. You can change the feathering amount of the brush as well. And then you can also change the opacity. I'm going to leave it at 100 in this scenario. And we're gonna go over here to this freckle. I'm gonna just click. And what Lightroom does is it basically tries to find a different section of the photo where it can find a texture to try to cover up whatever it is that you've selected. So in this scenario, it actually grabbed a part of my nose that's a little further up with less blemish. But what you can actually do is you can move this around and you can see how it changes the texture of that selected area. So once you find a good spot, we'll just drop it right there. And we'll hit done, and right there it's removed the blemish. We can go back to it here. We can change the size, we can change the feathering of it to make it look a little bit more natural. And then I'm going to repeat the process to get rid of all of the other freckles on my nose. So let's take a look at what we got here. We've got the before with all the freckles on my nose, and then with the brush activated, we have no freckles anymore. It's pretty cool what this tool can do. It's great for fixing blemishes on people's faces and skin, but it's also really effective in other practical ways, like if there's dark clothing with lint on it, you can correct that very easily with this tool. Or even if there's stuff in the background that you're trying to remove, you can use the clone side or the healing side, and you can remove that pretty effectively with the spot removal tool. The next tool that you should be using is a graduated filter. This is a great tool, especially if you're doing anything with landscapes where there's a really defined horizon. So we've got our photo here with the preset on it, and I really want to adjust the sky, but I don't want to adjust anything else inside of the photo. So the graduated filter is going to give us the ability to select only the sky without affecting anything else in the image. All you have to do is click on the graduated filter, this little rectangle up here, or you can hit M, which is the keyboard shortcut for that. Once you have it selected, you can just click on your image and start dragging. And now you have this cool little line that you can just drag all around the photo. You can also change its orientation so that way you can mess with the angle of it if you need to. Now the only thing is we don't know what we're selecting right now. So if you go down here, there is a show selected mask overlay, or if you hit O on your keyboard, that's the shortcut to show that. And now everything that we're selecting is in red. So as we move this up and down, we see that everything that is red is being selected. So again, I want to only affect the sky. So I'm going to drag this down until we start getting just a little bit affecting the people there, and maybe just starting to kiss the rocks there on this image. Now, if I want to ensure that nothing else except the sky is being selected in this image, we can go down here on the side and go to range mask. We're going to turn that to luminance. Using the luminance value of a range mask basically means that you're going to separate things by how bright or how dark they are within that selection. So in this image, the sky is brighter and the people in the foreground are a bit darker. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out some of those dark parts so that way they're not being selected within this range. So we're going to go down to range. We're going to just move this up to somewhere in the middle, but you can see it's a little tough to tell exactly where the selection is happening. So we're going to go to show luminance mask and we're going to click on that. And now we get an even better representation of exactly where this mask is going. So I like the range okay, but I'm going to bring it down just a bit more, drag this edge so that way it's feathered, and we are still selecting the sky primarily. And then we can adjust the mask as well with the smoothness so we can get all these different values. So from here we can turn the luminance mask off, and then let's just say I want to add saturation to the sky. Now as I add that up, it's starting to affect that without affecting the people. And then I can also change, let's say, fine-tune adjustments on the hue, maybe make it a little bit more like that. And we can add a little more contrast to the sky. So here's our before photo without using the graduated filter or any of our other adjustments. And here is it with it on. It makes a huge difference, and it gives you a lot of flexibility and power to select different areas of an image and affect just those and leaving some of the other stuff out. The next tool that we're going to talk about is the same thing as the graduated filter, but different, mostly because of its shape, and that is the radial filter. The radial filter gives you all the power of the graduated filter, but it allows you to change its shape to something more oblong, like a circle, oval, different stuff like that. So we got this image here, and what I want to do is I want to use a radial filter to draw more attention to the center of the frame. So I'm going to select the radial filter here, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag to draw a circle. And since we can't see the area we're affecting, we can just hit O on our keyboard, and now everything is lit up so we can see exactly where we are selecting. Now, like I said, I want to bring in the attention to the center of the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reduce the brightness of everything around our subject just so that way it stands out and pops a bit more. So I'm going to go down here and click invert, so that way I'm selecting everything outside of the image, and I'm going to reduce that feathering a little bit. I'm going to hit O, and then I'm going to go up to our exposure. I'm going to drop that down. So we're affecting the outside of the circle, we're leaving everything inside of the circle intact. So now we're reducing the brightness, and now our subject is popping even more. Now I think I took it a little far, so I'm going to bring it back just a little bit here. Here is our before image, and here is our after image. Now, there's a ton of other things you can do with the radial filter, but I love using it in this way to just help the subject pop a little bit more when they need a little bit more light or they need a little bit more contrast. You just draw that circle, start making your changes with your selection, and it really helps to give you more flexibility in different parts of your image. The fourth tool that you need to be using in Lightroom actually happens to be my favorite, and that is the adjustment brush. Now there's a ton of ways that you can use this thing, but I'm going to give you the two applications that I use probably the most often inside of my photo editing. So here we have a little bit of product photography, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the adjustment brush to select just the white text of this logo, and we're going to up the brightness of it so that way the white is extremely bright and it pops out in this image. So now that we're zoomed in on the image, we're going to go over to the adjustment brush and select it. The keyboard shortcut for this one is K. So now we're going to go over and select, but you can't see your selection. So if you've been paying attention, following along, if you hit O on your keyboard, you can now see what you're selecting. So we're going to go through, continue on with this selection, and get all of this white area. Now we've selected much more than just that white area, so we're going to use another range mask in order to make the selection on just the white text. But this time we're going to use the color range mask instead of the luminance range mask. So go down to range mask, select color, and then you're going to grab this little eyedropper, and then we're going to go up to the white section. We're going to create a little rectangle selection around it. And just like that, we have selected all of the white text inside of that brush selection. So with all that selected, I'm going to hit O to remove the red overlay, and I'm going to bump up the whites, maybe even exposure. I think we're already clipped right there, so that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and hit done. So let's check out the difference of these two images now. Here's the before, and here is the after. And if you zoom out, you'll actually see that it really pops now in comparison to what it looked like before. One thing I love using the adjustment brush for is making the eyes pop inside of portraits. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here on the image. We're gonna go over, select our brush, and I'm going to bring down the size of this brush. I'm gonna get it right there. Gonna bring it over to the pupil and start making our selection on just the pupil. If we hit O, we can see exactly where we are selecting. And since I look like a bit of a lizard person now, I'm gonna go ahead and hit O to remove that, since I know I have the selection made that I want. And what I'm gonna do to make the eyes pop even more is I'm going to up the sharpness. I'm gonna actually put it up all the way to 100. I want to jack up the clarity just a little bit, and then I'm going to move the exposure up just the littlest bit. Here's our image before making the adjustments, and here is our image after. And when you zoom out now, you can see that the eyes really pop. Now they're really sharp and really draw my eye first to the eyes. And honestly, that's why I love these tools inside of Lightroom and why you should be using them. It's because it gives you a lot of flexibility to go into those little detail spots of an image and make those adjustments. Maybe you need to bring down the exposure, maybe you need to brighten it, maybe you need to sharpen it, adjust your saturation or your color in those specific areas. It'll really help to make your image pop when you focus on those fine details. And I'll mention too, if you're getting started with Lightroom, I've got quite a few tutorials with Lightroom to help you get started on your way. I've got a playlist, I'll link it up there and down below in the video description as well. I'm also really interested to know, what's your favorite tool inside of Adobe Lightroom? Did I get it today? Did I overlook it? Let me know in the comments down below. And hey, if you got value out of this video, why don't you go ahead and add some value right back to it by hitting that like button. Really helps out. And also consider subscribing to this channel for more regular content just like this. Don't forget to hit that bell icon, give it a little ring-a-ding, so that way you never miss out anytime I post a new video or if I live stream, which I do semi-often here. Well, hey, until the next time, my name is Zach Sopak, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.